My life took a drastic turn at the age of 4, the year my sister Emily was born. Suddenly, I became invisible in my own home. My earliest memories are filled with the echo of Emily's singing. By 3, she was the star of every family gathering, while I stood on the periphery holding plates of snacks I'd helped prepare. Emily possessed an angelic voice that captivated everyone. My parents, Tom and Linda, were convinced she was destined for stardom. "Carrie, go help your sister practice her scales," Mom would say, without even glancing up from her phone as she recorded yet another video of Emily's performance. "And make sure you've done the dishes first." I was 8 at the time, and Emily was 4. While she twirled around the living room in her pink tutu, I learned to operate the washing machine because Mom was preoccupied with coordinating Emily's singing lessons. "Why can't I go to Sarah's birthday party?" I asked one Saturday morning when I was 12. Mom rolled her eyes. "Because Emily has a performance at the community center, and we need you to help with her costume changes." "But I promised Sarah." "Don't be selfish, Carrie," Dad interjected. "Your sister needs you. She's got real talent, unlike—" He trailed off, but the unspoken words hung in the air. "Unlike me." Everything shifted when Emily was 11 and I was 15. She and her friends went to the mall unsupervised, something I was never permitted to do at that age. They spent hours at the ice cream parlor, indulging in Sunday after Sunday, competing to see who could consume the most. The next morning, Emily awoke with a sore throat, which rapidly escalated into a severe case of strep throat, damaging her vocal cords. The doctor said she might never sing the same way again. I was in the kitchen, immersed in homework, when they returned from the hospital. "This is your fault," Mom shrieked at me. "You're her older sister. You should have been watching her." "But I was doing the laundry and cleaning the bathroom, like you told me." "No excuses." Dad slammed his fist on the table. "You're grounded for a month. No phone, no TV, no nothing. Maybe that'll teach you to take responsibility." That night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I made a vow. Someday, I would build a life where I didn't exist in anyone's shadow. I just had to endure a few more years in this house, where I was nothing more than a servant and a scapegoat. The next 3 years were a blur of chores, blame, and silent resentment. Every time Emily got into trouble, sneaking out, skipping class, or using Mom's credit card, it somehow became my fault. My acceptance letter from State College lay on the kitchen table beside Mom's meatloaf. I'd chosen dinner time deliberately, hoping they couldn't easily avoid the conversation. "It's the most affordable option," I explained, keeping my voice steady. "The tuition is reasonable." "We don't have the money, Carrie," Dad said without looking up. Emily snickered. "Maybe you should have developed some actual talents, instead of just doing chores all day." "You could take out a loan for me," I persisted, ignoring her. "I'll write you a receipt, promising to repay every penny once I graduate and get a job. Please, this is important to me." Mom sighed, that weary sigh she'd perfected over the years. "Honey, we're not taking out any loans. College isn't for everyone. Why don't you look for a job at the mall, or maybe that new cafe downtown?" "But I got a scholarship that covers part of the tuition. I just need help with the rest. I've researched everything, made a budget." Dad's fork clattered against his plate. "We said no loans. End of discussion. Some people are meant for college, others aren't. Accept it and move on." I stared at my uneaten dinner, fighting back tears. Through blurred vision, I saw Emily smirking, relishing the scene. That night, I called my best friend Rachel. We'd been close since middle school, bonding over our shared love of math and our status as outsiders. Me because of my family, her because her Korean immigrant parents owned the popular Golden Dragon restaurant downtown. "They won't help," I sobbed into the phone. "They won't even consider a loan. All these years of straight A's, of doing everything right, and they won't even try." Rachel was silent for a moment. "Come over tomorrow. My parents want to talk to you." The next evening, I sat in the restaurant's office with Rachel and her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kim, after closing time. They'd known me for years. I'd spent countless afternoons doing homework in their restaurant, escaping my chaotic home. "We've watched you grow up, Carrie," Mrs. Kim said. "You're like a second daughter to us." Mr. Kim nodded. "Rachel told us everything. We will pay your tuition." I started to protest, but he held up his hand. "You will work here part-time after classes. Good wages, flexible schedule, pay us back slowly, no interest. This is an investment in your future." Soon after, I moved into my dorm room at State College. My parents barely noticed my departure. They were too busy planning Emily's big piano recital, their latest attempt to find her a new talent to replace her lost singing voice. I began classes during the day and worked evenings at the Golden Dragon. It wasn't easy balancing work and studies, but for the first time, I felt a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. I was finally building a life of my own, free from the shadow of my sister and the suffocating expectations of my family. At the Golden Dragon, I learned everything from waiting tables to managing inventory. The call came on a random Tuesday during my sophomore year. I was studying in the library when Mom's number flashed on my screen. For a moment, I just stared at it, my heart pounding. We hadn't spoken in months. "Hey, sweetie," she said, sounding distracted. There was noise in the background, probably Emily practicing something new. "Just checking in. What have you been up to?" "I'm in college," I replied, bracing myself for the inevitable questions about money, about how I was managing without their help. "Oh, that's nice," she said vaguely. "Emily's getting straight A's in her advanced classes. We're so proud. She's really finding herself since, the voice thing. No questions about how I was paying for school. They didn't care enough to ask, and I didn't volunteer the information." The conversation ended as abruptly as it began, with Mom hanging up. During my college years, I only returned home for major holidays. Each visit followed the same pattern. Relatives gathered around the dining table while Emily held court, my parents beaming. I'd help in the kitchen, as always, listening to the chatter from the other room about Emily's latest accomplishments. Thanksgiving of my junior year was different. I was setting out the sweet potato casserole when Aunt Susan inquired about Emily's college plans. Mom proudly announced, "We've been saving for years. Our little star's education fund is all set. We've put aside enough for her to go anywhere she wants." I almost dropped the casserole. The ceramic dish burned my hands through the oven mitts, but the pain wasn't as searing as the truth I was hearing. 2 years ago, they'd pleaded poverty when I needed help. Now, I knew they'd been hoarding money all along, just not for me. That night, in my old bedroom, I called Rachel and cried. "They had the money," I whispered, huddled under my childhood blanket. "They just didn't think I was worth spending it on." "Then prove them wrong," she said firmly. "You're already doing it." She was right. I immersed myself in my studies and my work at the Golden Dragon. By graduation, I'd not only repaid every cent to the Kims, but had also mastered every aspect of running a successful business. I'd risen from waitress to shift supervisor to assistant manager, all while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. Mr. Kim called me into his office on my last day at the restaurant. "I have a friend at Morgan & Chase Corporate," he said, sliding a business card across his desk. "They need someone smart, hardworking, someone like you." I told him about how you transformed our inventory system, increased efficiency by 30%. He's very interested. A week after graduation, I walked into my new office at Morgan & Chase, wearing a suit I'd purchased with my own money. My desk nameplate read, "Caroline Mitchell, Junior Analyst." Within 6 months, I was leading my own team. By the end of my first year, I'd received 2 promotions and was managing projects that garnered the attention of senior leadership. Christmas arrived again, and something felt off the moment I pulled into my parents' driveway. The house was dark, except for the living room window. No cars lined the street, and the usual elaborate decorations were missing. Mom answered the door in an old sweater, a stark contrast to her usual holiday attire. "Emily's not coming?" I asked, stepping into the strangely quiet house. The familiar aroma of Mom's traditional Christmas roast was absent. "She's celebrating with friends," Mom said, wringing her hands. Their families rented a cabin up in the mountains. Very exclusive. The dining room table, usually laden with Mom's extensive holiday spread, held only a store-bought ham and some microwave sides. No relatives bustling about, no Christmas music playing. Dad sat in his armchair looking older than I remembered. "We've had some setbacks," Mom finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper. She glanced at Dad, who nodded slightly. "The investment your father made didn't pan out. We had to take out loans to cover the losses. Christmas with the whole family just wasn't in the budget this year." I watched them pick at their food. These people who'd once seemed so powerful, who'd controlled every aspect of my life, now looked small, defeated. Despite everything, a pang of sympathy resonated within me. "Give me a minute," I said, pulling out my phone. I scrolled through delivery options, thankful for restaurants that remained open on Christmas. 20 minutes, and several $100s later, I'd ordered a feast: prime rib, glazed ham, truffle mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, 3 different pies. The food arrived in elegant packaging, filling the house with the rich aromas of a proper Christmas dinner. As we ate, I caught Mom eyeing my designer watch, the silk blouse that cost more than their monthly utility bill. "We've been thinking," she said carefully, sharing a look with Dad. "Since you're in such a good position now, maybe you could help us out, just temporarily, until we get back on our feet." I studied them over my wine glass. Part of me wanted to remind them of their words when I begged for college money. Some people are meant for college, others aren't. But I was learning everything at the Golden Dragon, from serving customers to managing stock. One Tuesday during my sophomore year, while studying in the library, Mom's number appeared on my phone. My heart raced as I stared at it. We hadn't communicated in months. "Hey, sweetie," she said, her voice distracted by background noise. Likely Emily practicing something. "Just checking in. What have you been up to?" "I'm in college," I responded, anticipating questions about finances, about surviving without their assistance. "Oh, that's nice," she replied dismissively. "Emily's excelling in her advanced courses. We're so proud. She's truly blossoming since, the vocal cord issue. They didn't inquire about my tuition. Their indifference was clear. I offered no information." The call ended abruptly, Mom hanging up before I could respond. Throughout college, I only visited home for major holidays. Each visit was identical. Relatives gathered around the dining table, Emily dominating the conversation, my parents radiating pride. As always, I assisted in the kitchen, overhearing Emily's latest achievements from the adjacent room. However, Thanksgiving during my junior year felt different. While preparing the sweet potato casserole, I overheard Aunt Susan asking about Emily's college plans. Mom proudly declared, "We've been saving diligently. Our star's education fund is substantial enough for her to attend any university she desires." The casserole nearly slipped from my grasp, the heat searing my hands through the oven mitts. But that physical discomfort paled in comparison to the realization that they had ample funds all along, yet deemed me unworthy of their financial support. That night, I confided in Rachel, tears streaming down my face as I huddled under my childhood blanket. "They had the money," I choked out, "but they didn't believe I deserved it." "Then prove them wrong," she asserted. "You already are." Fueled by her words, I dedicated myself to my studies and my work at the Golden Dragon. By graduation, I had not only repaid the Kims in full, but had also acquired comprehensive knowledge of running a thriving business. I had progressed from waiter to shift supervisor to assistant manager while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. On my last day, Mr. Kim summoned me to his office. A friend of mine at Morgan and Chase Corporate, he began, sliding a business card across his desk, requires a bright, dedicated individual, someone like you. I described your remarkable improvements to our inventory system, a 30% efficiency increase. He's highly intrigued. A week post-graduation, I entered my new office at Morgan and Chase, wearing a suit purchased with my own earnings. My nameplate declared, Caroline Mitchell, Junior Analyst. Within 6 months, I led my own team. By year's end, 2 promotions later, I was managing high-profile projects that caught the attention of senior management. The following Christmas felt ominous from the moment I arrived at my parents' home. The house was unusually dark, devoid of festive decorations and parked cars. Mom, dressed in a simple sweater instead of her usual holiday finery, answered the door. "Emily isn't joining us?" I inquired, stepping into the eerily quiet house, noticing the absence of the traditional Christmas roast aroma. "She's celebrating with friends," Mom explained nervously, wringing her hands. Their families rented a luxurious mountain cabin. The dining room table, typically overflowing with Mom's holiday feast, held only a store-bought ham and microwaved side dishes. No relatives, no festive music. Dad sat in his armchair, appearing older than I recalled. "We've encountered some financial difficulties," Mom confessed softly, glancing at Dad for confirmation. "Your father's investment failed. We resorted to loans to mitigate the losses. A traditional family Christmas was beyond our budget this year." Observing them picking at their meager meal, these individuals who once wielded such control over my life now seemed diminished, defeated. Despite everything, a wave of pity washed over me. "Excuse me," I said, retrieving my phone. Scrolling through delivery options, I was grateful for restaurants open on Christmas. 20 minutes and several $100s later, a lavish feast arrived. Prime rib, glazed ham, truffle mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, and an assortment of pies. The aroma of a proper Christmas dinner filled the house. As we ate, Mom's gaze lingered on my designer watch and silk blouse, worth more than their monthly utilities. "We've been considering," she began hesitantly, exchanging a glance with Dad. "Given your fortunate circumstances, perhaps you could assist us financially. Temporarily, until our situation improves." I contemplated their request, a part of me wanting to remind them of their dismissive words when I pleaded for college tuition. Some people are meant for college, others aren't. However, I couldn't bring myself to do it. "I can add a supplementary card to my account," I found myself saying, "with a monthly spending limit." Mom's eyes brightened. "Oh, darling, $1,000 a month," I stated firmly. They eagerly agreed, exceeding their expectations, yet less than a week's worth of my salary. Days later, Mom received the card. They pledged to use it responsibly, respecting the limit. For several months, they honored their promise. The charges were reasonable: groceries, utilities, essential expenses. I barely noticed the withdrawals. Occasionally, reviewing statements, I'd see charges from the grocery store where I'd worked one summer, desperately trying to save for college. The irony was palpable. 2 years passed, and I foolishly believed things were improving. The monthly allowance established a rhythm in our relationship. Mom would call to discuss their expenses, which somehow evolved into genuine conversations, or so I thought. Even Emily and I resumed communication, though her competitive nature persisted. Any mention of my professional achievements would elicit a tightened smile and narrowed eyes, subtle cues I recognized from childhood. "Senior project manager? That's nice," she'd say condescendingly, mirroring her dismissal of my high school accomplishments. "I'm actually in line for a promotion at Wilson and Company, a smaller firm, but very prestigious. Not everyone can handle the pressure." Mom and Dad were enthralled with Emily's new boyfriend, James. He comes from such a distinguished family, Mom would gush during our monthly calls. His parents own that prominent downtown real estate company. The charges on Mom's card remained reasonable. Groceries, utilities, occasional dining out. Normal, expected expenses. I began to feel a sense of satisfaction, believing my financial support was mending our fractured family. Then, an Instagram post shattered the illusion. Paradise with my loves. Engaged. Hawaii. Blessed. Emily's caption declared. The photo showcased her and James on a pristine beach, our parents beaming beside them. James's mother, Mrs. Anderson, wore a designer sundress. Mr. Anderson stood proudly next to his son. My scrolling finger froze. When did this happen? Why wasn't I informed? The subsequent post chilled me to the bone. So grateful to Mom and Dad for making this magical engagement trip possible for everyone. They insisted on treating both families to this dream vacation. Best parents ever. Sponsored by love. Suddenly, everything clicked. My hands trembled as I opened my banking app. There they were, exorbitant charges on Mom's card, far exceeding the limit. 6 round-trip first-class tickets to Honolulu, $12,400. Grand Wailea Resort, 3 ocean view suites for 7 nights, $18,600. Welcome dinner at Morimoto, $2,800. Couple spa treatments, $4,200. Sunset sailing excursion, $600. Private beachfront dinner, $30,500. They had secretly funded a lavish family vacation with my money, a vacation I wasn't invited to. They had orchestrated an extravagant engagement celebration for Emily and her future in-laws, excluding the person footing the bill. My hands shaking violently, I dialed Mom's number. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Hello? Mom's voice was cheerful, punctuated by Hawaiian music, waves, clinking glasses, and laughter. Emily's distinctive giggle among them. Where are you? I maintained a steady, professional tone, the one I employed during difficult board meetings. Oh, honey, she hesitated, the music fading as she moved away from the party. Your father and I decided on a little break, some much-needed rest. You know how challenging things have been lately. A little break? I stared at the banking app, my free hand clenching into a fist. At the Grand Wailea Resort, with Emily, James, and his entire family? That kind of break costs over $40,000. I corrected myself. Mom, that's $44,000. Silence. Then muffled voices. Mom was covering the phone, but I could still discern fragments. She knows. What should I... Emily, maybe you should... Mom, why did you use my card to pay for everyone's trip? And why wasn't I invited to my own sister's engagement party? More muffled conversation, then rustling as the phone changed hands. Emily's voice dripped with contempt. Listen, Miss Executive, she sneered. You're not needed here. You're not even family anymore. Just a walking ATM. We don't want you here ruining everything with your little success story. Nobody wants to hear about your precious career while we're celebrating my engagement. Her words stung, but I forced myself to remain calm. That ATM just paid $20,000 for your little party, another $20,000 for the flights and extras. That's my money funding your perfect family moment. Yeah, Emily laughed, a harsh, cold sound. Well, that's what you're good for, isn't it? You keep working your fancy job. The phone call ended abruptly with Mom's chilling words, and we enjoy spending your money. It's the only thing you're useful for anyway. Always was, even when we were kids. At least now you're finally serving a purpose. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I immediately redialed, but Mom didn't answer. It went straight to voicemail. Dad's number yielded the same result. Emily's phone rang once before diving into voicemail, and within minutes, a barrage of notifications flooded my phone. User has blocked you on every social media platform we shared. My parents' profiles vanished first, then Emily's. A final text from Mom arrived before my number was blocked. We're all tired of your attitude and jealousy. Just leave us alone. You've ruined enough special moments for Emily. The message hung in the air, a cold weight settling in my chest. My hands, surprisingly steady, opened the banking app, and navigated to the travel reservations. Each tap felt like severing a link in the chain of their long-standing abuse. Click. The hotel reservation for 3 luxury ocean view suites. Canceled. Click. The couple's massage packages and sunset sailing excursions. Canceled. Click. The private beachfront dinner arrangements. Canceled. Click. The 6 first-class return flight tickets. Canceled. Click. Mom's card. Permanently deactivated. I set down my phone and waited, picturing their faces when the hotel staff informed them their rooms were unpaid, when room charges were declined, when they discovered their return flights had vanished. 3 hours later, my phone erupted. Calls and texts bombarded me from Mom, Dad, Emily, and unfamiliar numbers with Hawaii area codes. The Andersons, no doubt, questioning their abruptly ruined luxury vacation. The messages poured in through every platform they'd unblocked in their panic. Carrie, please call us immediately. This is an emergency, Mom pleaded. Fix this right now, young lady. You're embarrassing the whole family, Dad demanded. You better make this right, or I swear to God, Emily threatened. This is James. My parents are furious. You need to reinstate those reservations, an unknown number declared. As the hours crawled by, the tone shifted. Sweetie, please. We can talk about this, Mom begged. We'll pay you back. Just help us out here, Dad promised. Come on, Carrie. It's my engagement. Don't be so petty, Emily whined. James again. My parents are threatening to call this whole thing off. I left them all unread, systematically blocking each number and account, but not before capturing screenshots. I had a feeling I'd need them. Around midnight, a notification popped up. Emily Mitchell has posted a new status. It read, I can't believe my own sister would try to ruin the happiest moment of my life. She's always been jealous of my happiness, but this is a new low. Canceling our entire family's vacation out of spite? Who does that to their own sister's engagement celebration? Some people just can't stand to see others happy. Shark toxic family. Sure heartbroken. The comments section instantly overflowed with sympathy and outrage. I had remained silent long enough. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Let me tell you what really happened. My parents have been using my credit card for basic expenses, limited to $1,000 a month. Yesterday, I discovered they'd spent over $40,000 of my money to fund a luxury Hawaiian vacation for Emily's engagement. They didn't ask. They didn't tell me. They didn't invite me. When I called to question them, Emily told me I wasn't family, just a walking ATM. My mother's final message before blocking me, we're all tired of you. So yes, I canceled the reservations I never authorized. I canceled the return flights I never agreed to pay for. I stopped funding the vacation I wasn't welcome to attend. Here are the screenshots of every message. Here are the credit card statements. Here's the truth about your poor Emily and her ruined engagement party. Judge for yourselves who the toxic ones really are. Public opinion reversed instantly. Comments shifted from condemnation to support. Oh my God, Emily, how could you? Using your sister's money while excluding her? That's cruel. Those poor Andersons, getting caught in this family's drama. Carrie, you did the right thing. Stay strong. The fallout was a slow-motion train wreck. Through mutual friends and social media, I learned the extent of the chaos I'd unleashed in Hawaii. My parents had to borrow money from 3 different friends just to book economy flights home. They were forced to check out of the Grand Wiley Resort in front of all the other guests. Emily threw a tantrum in the lobby that ended up on TikTok. The real explosion came when the Andersons realized they'd have to pay for their own accommodations. They'd been promised a fully paid luxury vacation, only to be caught in my family's web of lies. We trusted you, Mrs. Anderson. I heard she screamed at my mother by the pool. You said you were taking care of everything. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is, Emily? True to form, Mom made everything worse. Oh, stop being such greedy beggars, she shrieked in response. If you can't afford a few nights in Hawaii, maybe your son isn't good enough for our family after all." James stood there, stunned, before finally speaking. "You're right about one thing," he said quietly. "Someone isn't good enough for someone's family." He removed the engagement ring from Emily's finger and walked away with his parents. The engagement was over. Emily's dream wedding canceled before it even started, all because they couldn't resist stealing from me one last time. A week after their return, the knocking began. "Carrie, honey, please open the door." Mom's voice trembled through the solid wood of my apartment door. "We need to talk." "We know we messed up," Dad's voice chimed in. "Just give us a chance to explain." I remained on my couch, motionless, barely breathing. The TV was muted, but the blue light flickered across my face as their pleas continued. The knocking persisted for 20 minutes before they finally gave up. I later learned they tried to convince the building manager to let them in, claiming an emergency. He'd called me first, and I'd instructed him not to allow them access. Rachel came over that night with takeout from Golden Dragon. We sat on my balcony, overlooking the city lights. "Your post got shared in some family trauma support groups," she said, picking at her noodles. "A lot of people are calling you their hero for standing up to toxic family members and setting boundaries." I reflected on the years spent trying to earn their love, to prove my worth. All the money I'd given them, hoping it would finally make them see me as family, not just a resource to be exploited. "You know what's funny?" I said, watching a plane vanish into the night sky. "For the first time in my life, I don't care what they think of me. I don't care if they're sorry. I don't care if they change. I'm just done." Sometimes, the hardest part of growing up isn't learning to stand on your own 2 feet. It's knowing when to walk away. I'd spent my entire life in Emily's shadow. Now it was time to step into the light.